What's up, everyone? My name is Ethan. This is Courtside TV. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. So today, we're going to talk about the LA Clippers. They're in the middle of this playoff battle with the Dallas Mavericks right now. They just dropped Game 1 at home, which is certainly not a good look. They dropped that game there, and I think we're going to be in for a tough series. So obviously, we have no idea what's going to happen throughout the rest of the series, and we'll see how that pans out. But I kind of just wanted to do more of a focus on the Clippers here for today, and kind of, go over what it would be like if they actually ended up losing in the first round. So the Clippers are in a bad spot here. Well, I mean, relative, right? Because obviously they have a very good team this year. They still could win the title. It's certainly a possibility, and we're not going to overreact to just one game of the playoffs. It's not going to happen. It was a close one. They ended up letting it get away from them in the final minutes there. But Mavericks are a good team, and they ended up getting that win, whatever, right? So the Clippers dropping Game 1 is not necessarily that much of a concern, but this is going to be a tough matchup for them, and I would not be surprised if the Mavericks came out and won this series. So if they did, let's just run with the idea and say, let's say the Mavericks upset the Clippers in the first round. Kawhi Leonard can be a free agent. That's the problem number one, right? Kawhi could be a free agent at the end of the year. He has a player option, and he could potentially, test the waters, end up somewhere else. And that would be certainly catastrophic because, two, they don't have any draft picks. The Clippers traded away all of their draft picks. I think it was like 5 picks for Paul George and a bunch of swaps as well. They traded away some other picks in order to bring in some of the other pieces around this team, like bringing in Marcus Morris and a couple of these other guys. So they just don't really have any assets. They have no more draft capital. They have, not really any young players to be able to build another team around Paul George. Because if Kawhi leaves, then you're just stuck with Paul George and like Marcus Morris, who are signed long-term, and pretty much everybody else, you have no control over them. So if Kawhi leaves, you could find yourself in a really, really, really bad situation because you don't have any draft picks. You have only one star left, Paul George, and that's clearly not enough to win the title just on its own. So they could be staring right down the face of another very long rebuild. And I mean, this kind of became an issue as early as last season when they had their collapse in the playoffs there. A lot of people started to get a little bit concerned about this team just because they didn't live up to expectations, and it's clear they still had a while to, a couple things to do in order to really turn themselves into a full-fledged contender, whether that's, roster decisions or a coaching change or, just getting this team to work together and playing the right way and, figuring out how they're going to win basketball games. And they did, to their credit, make some of those moves over the offseason, obviously swapping out the coach and making a couple of moves around the margins on this roster here. But if they don't win this first round series, then they're just back to square one. They didn't really improve at all from last year. They actually got worse from last year. Let's say they lose, right? And that would just be a horrible situation to be in for the Clippers. Now, all that being said, I still like this team to win in the first round. I think they are going to be able to come out and get this victory here. They beat Dallas last year. In my personal opinion, the Mavericks are probably not quite as good as they were last season. They don't have Kristaps playing at the level that he has been over, his career. He's coming off the injury and just has not looked like himself for the last little while. I think the Seth Curry trade was a mistake for that. I'm on record kind of talking about how much I didn't like that trade for Dallas. So I just feel like overall the Mavericks are, either the same or worse as they were last year. Meanwhile, the Clippers are, about the same, maybe a little bit better. It depends on, how you feel about guys like Rajon Rondo and Serge Ibaka, but the Clippers are still going to be a very good team, and if they can't get over this hump and, beat the same team that they beat last season, then the entire year is going to be looked at as a failure, and this whole experience, with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard is going to be looked at as a failure, and I would not be surprised at all to see them, to see Kawhi can have a wandering eye in the offseason. Now, is he going to leave Los Angeles? I have no idea. Obviously, he wanted to go there. It's been rumored for a very long time, back when he was with the Spurs, that he always wanted to go play in LA, whether that was for the Lakers and the Clippers, and he now gets his wish. He's able to go play for his hometown team, or at least close to his hometown, right? So he gets to go, play for his hometown squad, but, it's just that situation where does he really value playing for them, or does he want to go try to play for a team that is more ready to win, and whether that's, a team that's still in California like the Lakers or the Warriors, or whether that's, somewhere else across the league. Maybe he's had the experience playing at home. I don't know. I'm not in Kawhi's brain. Nobody is. He's one of the quietest guys in the league, so we have no idea what he's going to do in the offseason. But the fact that he can become a free agent, or potentially opt in and do like a trade, or do a sign-in trade, or however that would work, there is a real possibility that he does end up leaving the Clippers, especially if it's a first-round exit this time around, because if they can't figure it out, then when are they ever going to? So they just need Paul George to step up. They need Kawhi Leonard to step up. Those two guys are still very, very good basketball players. It just hasn't really worked out for them so far in LA, specifically last postseason. We will see if this year is a different story this time around. Losing game 1 against the Mavericks is not a great sign, just because kind of the way they lost it, and that game being at home, and also them sort of tanking the last couple of days of the regular season in order to fall into that matchup, rather than having to play a different team. It certainly might raise some eyebrows. So we'll see how the Clippers rest of the season goes. But I would be very terrified if I was a Clippers fan of another first-round exit, because that could certainly spell doom for this franchise. And honestly, if they enter another rebuild, is it crazy to say that they might leave Los Angeles? I know that they're always going to be the little brother in that city, and they might have to look elsewhere for a move. I have, obviously logistics of that are pretty complicated, and that a lot depends on ownership, but if you're staring down the face of a long rebuild, and the fans just don't care, then maybe a relocation ends up being a possibility. I don't know, maybe that's a consequence of this as well. So anyway, I think that's all for my quick thoughts on the LA Clippers after their loss to the Mavericks in game 1 of the first round. Like I said, just don't overreact to this. I kind of, just wanted to make this video detailing the stakes of this series for the Clippers. I think this is going to be, it's very important, clearly, especially if they end up losing. They should win. They should still be able to win this and be okay and move forward. But if they lose, oh boy, it's going to be tough. So like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell if you want to. Leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about the Clippers. Are they going to get out of the first round, and what happens if they don't? Would love to hear your thoughts down below. But with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.